half the people, when they ask them the main character, how would you describe the qualities of the main character, the character traits? The ones that got iced coffee all say the person was cold and uncaring. 81% say that.
Come on.
The person that got hot coffee, 80%, or 1% difference say the person is warm and genuine. And the only difference is 30 minutes earlier, somebody primed them. See, you think it's your thoughts. Much of your thoughts have been primed by the environment.
I wanted to talk about gaslighting and mind control. And there's many examples of this, countless examples, of the type of psychological studies that have been done. So Anthony Robbins recently talked about a study that we actually covered on air a few years ago, where they went out to a park and asked somebody to hold their cell phone for a minute, and gave them or asked them to hold their coffee or their iced coffee for a minute while they worked on their cell phone. And then they later came back and asked the people just a few minutes later, was that person nice or was that person mean? Was that person warm or was that person hot? And statistically, the vast majority that held the warm coffee said the person was warm. And the people that held the iced coffee said the person was cold. Now, they weren't consciously connecting the cold coffee with the hot coffee, but that put the impression in their mind. And that's how programming, that's how mind control works. Now, it only works if you're unconscious. It only works if you're not thinking constantly about what's the baseline of reality, what do I stand for, and what is pro-human, and what is actually going on. Because if you're a conscious person, you would go after how they acted or how they responded to you or their interaction. But the average person is unconscious, so they weren't really paying attention when the person handed them the iced coffee or the hot coffee. They just had a subconscious memory at an animal level of the coffee was hot, so the person was warm, or if the coffee was cold, the person was cold. Whereas whether the coffee was hot or cold had no bearing on whether the person was hot or cold, whether the person was nice or mean, cold or hot. And that's an example of an unconscious person that can be programmed. That's why they train you in school, and the culture, and this is on record, with short attention spans and unable to really differentiate.
If 100 actors, they walked up to 100 people in a park, and they rehearsed doing the same thing every time. They reach in their pocket to get their phone, and they hand the person a cup of coffee, and then they reach in their pocket looking down and say, would you hold this to me for a second, to a full stranger? They grab their phone, look at it, type it, and they take it back. They go, thank you so much. The same for everybody. But then they come back 30 minutes later with somebody with, and the only difference, by the way, is 50% of them have iced coffee, 50% of them have hot coffee.
Got it.
Now, a person comes by 30 minutes later with a clipboard, gives them $20 and said, if you'll give me literally a minute and a half of your time to read this 3-paragraph story and answer these 2 questions, this is yours. 98% of people take the $20 and do it. They read the story. It's the same story for everybody. But half the people, when they ask them the main character, how would you describe the qualities of the main character, the character traits? The ones that got iced coffee all say the person was cold and uncaring. 81% say that.
Come on.
The person that got hot coffee, 80% or 1% difference say the person is warm and genuine. And the only difference is 30 minutes earlier, somebody primed them. See, you think it's your thoughts. Much of your thoughts have been primed by the environment.
But what he's saying is a study. A real-world study, and all the statistics and deeper research shows that almost the same number, 81% versus 80. So, again, just because what they were handed was hot or cold, they weren't consciously thinking about it, but the subconscious is way more powerful than the conscious, and it did remember that. So that's why you've got to be in a conscious mind state. And a lot of people think of being conscious as troublesome or exhausting. No, the more you're in a conscious state, the more your brain creates new neuron connections, the smarter you get. Everybody knows when you've been at work 10, 12, 15 hours, and you go home and eat a big meal, and now there's less blood in your brain, and you are, watching TV and not paying attention, you make bad business deals. You make bad mistakes. You don't think as clearly as you do in the morning. The number one rule they tell trial lawyers is don't even eat lunch. Maybe eat a little protein bar and a coffee, because you'll be exhausted afterwards because there's less blood in your brain. So it's the same thing. Everything is about not getting you to train your brain. You're still going to make mistakes. The point is, when you're conscious, you're going to catch the mistakes. When you're not conscious, you're not going to hardly ever catch them. And they always want you in that sleeping, unconscious state so they can do whatever they want to you, because your conscious brain will make the right decisions. Your unconscious brain is powerful, but it will make decisions on the dumbed down information you're being fed. And you can give all this psychological terms, you can make it more sophisticated than it is, but just think about the fact that 80% or 81% of people, depending on which cup it was, only judged a person by what they were handed, but didn't consciously realize that was going on. That's mind control.